Hello, I'm football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the FUT Weekly Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to week 19 of the FUT Weekly Podcast. This is the gameplay episode. It's Team of the Year, and we'll talk a bit about that as well. We've got with us Josh Excels. Hello, Josh. I mean, is it Team of the Year?
I don't want to redo the bit, but yeah, is it Team of the Year? I haven't noticed. Good to be here. I've just had to play 9 games of Mystery Ball, so my gameplay opinions may be a little skewed at the moment from having to play with no playstyles and no roles.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. And our next guest, becoming very regular at this point. We had to have him back before Team of the Year ended. It's Coach Venny. Hello, welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, I'm back to finish off, as you guys say, kind of Team of the Year, but it doesn't feel like it's been Team of the Year. The one thing we have had quite nice, though, is Evo. So if you haven't been able to pack a Team of the Year, there's been some nice Evos you could make to feel like you've done something over this period. But I'm sure you guys are probably opening a load of packs like us and not actually got anything for our grind.
Yeah, well, we will talk a bit about some of the Evos. We've actually had an interesting one since we last spoke. As in on the last podcast. But I was actually going to say, why don't we start off by just, covering a bit of Team of the Year chat as we do this time of year, even though it's a gameplay episode. And Venny, we haven't had you on since the very start. Have you packed any Team of the Years? That is the question.
No. There's a simple way to put it. It's just no. And do you know what the worst thing is? I play 3 weekend leagues. I do as much as I can on the game for grinding, and nothing. Not even I haven't had a Team of the Year honorable mention. I haven't had a Team of the Year icon. I've had nothing. So I'm glad there was at least Evos to keep me a little bit sane.
Yeah, and Josh, have things changed for you since the last episode?
No. I mean, as I said, since it said in the intro, it may as well not be Team of the Year right now. I've opened lots of packs. I've still kept the grind going with ever decreasing enthusiasm each day. I like many was hoping for an 82-20 repeatable yesterday, but I mean, without wanting to rehash what we covered in the content podcast, I just want a way to get 89 rated cards or 90 rated cards so that I can complete SBCs, because that is the trade-off, right? I don't mind Team of the Years being hard to pack as long as I can complete the SBCs I want to complete. And I look at someone like Matt Trading, who has opened 7,000 packs or whatever he's up to right now. I think he's completed 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦, but hasn't been able to do Marcelo, hasn't got close with Messi or Ronaldo, hasn't got close with anything really that has an 89 rated squad in it, because you can't make an 89 rated squad. At least if you do, you essentially have to pack Rodri and Bellingham, or one of the two and most of the 89s, and just the chances of that happening are so slim. And the honourable mentions aren't being packed enough to act as fodder. And it's it's tough out here. I know this is public, and people may not have listened. I mean, you can always sign up to Patreon to get an extra podcast every week, but I did do I think it was probably 10 to 15 minutes without stuttering once about how bad the situation is from a menu perspective, and even from just a grind perspective. And I think the Evos have maybe improved since Monday, but even those, I don't think they're that much of a step up in lots of places from where we have been. And that was necessary, but it's only necessary if everywhere else improves, and everywhere else has got worse. And as I say, I've had to play Mystery Ball. We had the Survivor mode. It's been ill thought out, I think, in many respects. But without getting into leaks, you'll probably be listening to this after content that's come tonight. It does seem like maybe we're going to get a little bit of a last hurrah for 48 hours, because Wednesday to Friday is when most people could really grind.
And is that the rumor that there's an 82 plus times 25?
Yes,
which obviously people or leakers are sharing, as if that's what we're getting, and it's going to be unlimited, but it feels quite unlikely considering the approach.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's 82 by 25 suggests to me it's not going to be unlimited, because I think that's going to be kind of viewed as a trade-off of okay, you can only do it, let's say 15 times a day, but you get an extra 5 cards out of it. Like, I think that's probably what it'll be. I mean, just something that feels repeatable and grindable, even if it is limited. Fine, I think it's necessary. Like, I think best case scenario, it's limited to maybe 100 per day, and it's kind of, hey, go crazy. But I think it's probably going to be in the low tens, and that's me being optimistic. I think the bigger pack is actually the 88 to 90 pack that's been added into the code, that's seemingly coming tonight. I imagine it'll act similar to the 85 to 87 that we currently have for an 83 rated squad, and the idea being that you can turn what I presume will be an 85 rated squad in for an 88 to 90 rated card, maybe be somewhere around there, I reckon, 86, 85, 84, something. Kind of almost a reverse exchange in many respects. Because then you can actually go and complete the SBCs with the fodder that we all have, which is those 86 to 84 rated cards, because then we can turn those into the 88 pluses. My only worry with that is, am I just going to end up with 150 𝘵𝘂𝘃𝗀𝘀s and nothing higher than that, because that's all I'm getting 88 plus. So.
You're just sure you can complete like 10% of loads of 89 rated squads, if you know what I mean, but you can't put them all in the same squad in order to complete, which does kind of raise a point that it probably makes sense for EA to make it so you could submit duplicates into an SBC squad, right? Because that would help quite a bit. Well, hey, why not just blow apart the whole SBC system? I mean, nobody wants to be there submitting players at this point. It's just an absolute chore. But anyway, was there anything else that anyone wanted to kind of add on the Team of the Year content at the moment? I mean, obviously we'll talk a little bit about the EVOs potentially, but if there's anything from a player's perspective, I don't know if there's something anyone wants to add since the last episode.
Probably not from a player's perspective, but I think it's probably just worth highlighting. I think in the content pod, we talked about the fact that Live Event 6 had a limited entry of 30. But it's kind of, they've gauntleted it, where they've put, where you can like just play an event and effectively complete it, and there's also then a win bonus. But then I think there was an issue where people were winning it was like locking them out, and so I actually think they've completely removed the 30 limited entries, and it's now just you can go in however many times you want. So that's probably the only thing to highlight, that they didn't do what it seemed like they might be doing with that final one.
Yeah, so you can actually just not worry too much about the fact you might win it.
Yes,
which is a funny situation to be in, when you have to be careful of winning things, because you never know what they might, that you might not be able to re-enter, as we've seen in the past. Which it's good that they've kind of sorted that out, but only in a temporary way. Are there any particular players you wanted to highlight, Venny? Because obviously, it's been a week or so since you're on the podcast. I don't know if there are any players we've had released that you think are particularly good at the moment that people might want to keep an eye out for.
I'll be honest with you, I don't even think the SBC players have been that good, to be honest with you. Like, maybe if I say like there's a card what people could keep an eye out on is Diani. I actually think she wasn't obviously at SBC, she was an honourable mention, and the reason I mentioned her is because she's lengthy, and we're not really seeing many wingers with lengthy. But if we're looking at 𝘱𝘰𝗀𝘀, for example, which we're seeing so much in pro play right now, and I think a lot of people getting hands on that card through the SBC grind, what they are able to do from the Team of the Year, they're realizing how good lengthy can be if you understand how you can trigger the run, allow it to get up to that full speed and play for that through ball with a space to take in, and you're noticing how strong it is. At the moment, the wingers situations are very limited. What we can have a lengthy winger, and we actually saw in the FC Pro Open finals actually have Diani on the right and 𝘱𝘰𝗀𝘀 on the left, and he played Nicholas, and Nicholas couldn't catch him every time on the counter attack. It was extremely hard to defend. So maybe Diani's like one, but for me, maybe Patcher as well. But the SBCs, like what we've had, I don't know if you guys spoke about the 𝘵esse situation with that being 3.2 million. The card is actually very good, I'll be honest with you. And maybe if it was on the market, it is probably a 3.2 million card potentially. Obviously, because of links and stuff, it's not. But the card is very good, and you can make other Evos as good. But that double play style of technical and finesse on a cam, or striker or right mid you want to play, like he is really, really good, but impossible to do. 3.2 million of fodder, or if you want to spend your coins to do that, it sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Currently impossible to do. I think it will get easier because obviously once everything goes back into packs, suddenly I think the prices come down a little bit. It's just you have to keep the kind of menu grind there past the end of Team of the Year to allow people to get them, and maybe that 88 to 90 card will allow people to start making a dent into those SBCs.
I was going to make, actually, isn't there a strong argument, Josh, to actually save your 88 to 90 packs until after Team of the Year goes out of packs, because you're then more likely to pack a bigger variety of 88, 89 and 90 rated players. And then also we might even get some future stars which fall into that rating category. So,
yeah, potential. I mean, let's see, right? The 85 by 87 has been there to, like, I think from winter wildcards. So that's been there for almost a month. So let's see if it remains, how long is it here for? If it's here for 2 weeks, I wouldn't be holding any of them, because there's a bunch of honorable mentions in that 88 to 90 range.
Yeah. They're so low rated.
you've got like Raya, 𝘬𝘰𝘀𝘀, Marquinhos, Heaps, Diaz, Dumfries, and Pacho. I think Pacho and Diaz probably the only two like proper cards that you'd really want. But yeah, I mean, you could hold on to, but again, I would just have a look at how long its impact's for, or how long the SBC is there for, I should say.
Yeah, I know we got a pound for pound shout from Tom, which we didn't mention on Monday. I think it came in after the recording, but for Emily Fox, the Arsenal right back, which I did think was a good one, because she is an objective card that has a really nice combination of base play styles. I think the fact that she's got rapid plus right back is maybe not something people are generally that excited for, even though it is somewhat helpful. But yeah, incisive, tiki-taka, jockey, intercept, quick step, relentless is a nice combination of play styles for sure. And yeah, actually, sorry, I wanted to step back and as we were talking about players, go back to what Venny was saying about lengthy players. And yeah, it's interesting because that 𝗪𝗀 that you're talking about, the SBC, is still out there. Actually, you can still complete her, right? And that makes sense. I mean, it's funny because it's not a card people were talking about at the time it was released, obviously, and now there's lots of attention on it because it was so used during this Pro Open. I guess that's partly because of those pros getting hands on that player in a way, because of presumably opening packs and things, which is kind of an interesting thing. So that player did exist, but wasn't necessarily being discovered because these pros weren't using her. But it's interesting with Diani as well, because Diani, you're saying playing off the right, is actually right-footed, right? And you'd think, and has finesse plus. So you'd think that there's a slight waste there in some ways because of the 4-star. You're not really going to benefit so much from the finesse plus, but I guess that is not as big a factor actually as being able to just be really fast in behind, I guess.
I think it depends if you use precision shooting or not, to be honest with you, with how effective weak footers are. I haven't used a system for a long time, but I'll be honest with you, there's Nosada, the German pro, and he was playing VBL, and he was doing these crazy cross-body shots, just normal power shot across goal, with a left foot of a 3-star weak foot, and it looked like he had 5-star weak foot. So having that with a playstyle plus and doing a finesse, I don't think is too much of a worry, to be honest with you, if you're using precision shooting. If you're not using precision shooting, as I said, I haven't used this system for a while, so I'm not really too sure how it feels shooting with somebody what doesn't have that high weak foot or low weak foot. Maybe it's different, I would say. But from a precision shooting perspective, I don't really ever have an issue with the person having either a 4-star weak foot and shooting a finesse. For example, I did Salma as my choice for the inside edge because I needed a left mid, and she's only got 4-star weak foot, the version what I've done, and her right foot seemed like 5-star when I was doing the finesse. So
yeah, that's fair. It's interesting. I feel like the issue I have more, and actually this is kind of fine because to some extent, if you have game changer, because you can do Travellas obviously off the right foot on the right side or left foot on the left side, but it's actually that they often will try to take finesse shots with the wrong foot. And maybe that's almost like just being aware of their stride and making sure you time it so that they are going to try and take it correctly. But I do often find, I don't know if you found a way to avoid that, but like I do often find that if they are right-footed on the right and you take a finesse shot with their left foot, even if they have 5-star weak foot, they actually can end up trying to shoot it with their right, and it just does a weird angle.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wouldn't say there's a way to avoid that apart from, as you mentioned, trying to actually set it up for it. So the way you can set up for it is like your last touch needs to be touched to that side. If you do like 2 touches, there's a higher chance that it goes into it. So as you can imagine, if you're cutting across from the right side and then you want to do that finesse onto the left foot, you have maybe a bit more of an emphasis on the touch to make sure it goes onto that left side. And usually I don't see that happen too much, but it definitely can, especially inside the box when you don't have that luxury of having the space. It's probably going to happen more often than not. But more so like if you're running through, it's not. I don't really see it to happen too much.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also what you're saying about the lengthiness, I mean, that is something that we've been talking about on the podcast being important. But like for someone to pick lengthiness over like rapid plus, because obviously, I mean, I guess 𝘱𝘰𝗀𝘀 has the finesse plus, which is really nice. People like that a lot, especially on that left hand side, right footed. But like, yeah, to prioritize that lengthiness over, say, like rapid plus or some more pace play styles, that's quite interesting. So you do think it's like a pretty big factor at the sort of top level for getting extra pace?
Yeah, for sure. Especially, as I said, like if you're utilizing the through balls well, then it's really good. If you're not using through balls that well and like getting them to run in behind that defensive line, I'd actually say 𝘱𝘰𝗀𝘀 might be one of the worst players in the game, because she's not that good on like left stick dribbling and being good on the balls. That's not what she's good for. She's a pure runner, shooter, simple as. She obviously got tiki-taka, which is also nice, but if you're expecting her to like pass into her feet and try and twist and turn like `𝘵ci, she's not the card for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting actually you mentioned that 𝘵ci as well. I think we were saying, it does feel like 𝘵ci is the better choice of the two, of 𝘵ci and Ronaldo in that SBC. And I think, since we recorded, we've now seen some strong evos that have got people kind of saying, actually, even that 𝘵ci is not particularly great value considering, the evolutions that you can do. But obviously you pointed out that finesse plus technical plus combo is really good. I think they're two, in fact, we talked about this before, right? On the gameplay podcast, they're two play styles pluses which have like a bigger kind of increase when you go from base playstyle to plus. So I think that does make that SBC more compelling than perhaps it would if you'd had different pluses. But yeah, the one that I think people have been thinking about, which has made a bit of a difference there, is the creative director evolution. I just wanted to kind of come to that because it's come up. But it's an interesting one because it actually adds an 8th regular playstyle, which is, obviously a big deal. We've talked about base playstyles being important, so getting an extra one on is obviously good. And the only other evo we've had so far with 8 base playstyles was Inside Edge, which was a paid evo for 75k 500 𝗶𝘃 points. And in terms of creative director, I think you were saying, Venny, it's good, and obviously like it's going to add an 8th playstyle, although often, depending on who you're adding it to, they can get long ball pass as a base playstyle. Do you think that's like useful? I mean, at what positions would you say that would be worth having as an 8th playstyle?
Fullbacks and centre mids, I think. What I think it is like, we all know how good ground through balls are with incisive, right? We all know like it's super effective and easy to set up, to be honest with you. So like there's not like this need like FC 24, I want to say. Yeah, 24 with 4-3-2-1, when like long ball was actually the main one, right? Because it was a lot of switches, a lot of balls over the top. But long ball was actually a very useful way to be able to progress up the pitch, especially as like if you feel like the opponent's maybe cut off that passing lane like on the ground, it doesn't mean it's gone in the air, and you're seeing that a lot with, as I said, like the centre mid positions. But even so on the fullbacks, let's say you pass it to your wingers and do like an L1 pass back to your fullback, take a little bit of space, see how the opponent like decides they want to defend that. Let's say they start running towards you to try and apply some aggression with their fullback. Then you just put an L1 triangle over the top and you're through on the wing. And then they come over their centre-back, you find it inside pass, and you're in a very good position attacking-wise in them moments. So I think long ball, it's it's good. And I think I was saying to you guys like before this, it's like the three playstyles from the Team of the Year honorable mention, press proven, long ball, and first touch, because they're not these shiny big playstyles what everyone keeps talking about, like the tiki-takas, the finesse shots and stuff, the technicals. Like, people don't realize how good of a playstyle he still can be if you understand how you can potentially utilize them, but also just make your players feel better. As for example, like with the first touch and press proven, having it on your card isn't a bad thing. Your players are going to feel better 100%.
I was going to say, Josh, it is a pretty good Evo to take a look at for sure, and it's repeatable twice, and it also adds the cam position with Shadow Striker plus, and you can go up to 5-star weak foot with it. So I feel like it's probably one of the better value Evos that we've seen. Considering
it's cracking value because it's free.
Oh, yeah, it's free.
But
what do I mean? One of the best free Evos we've had recently.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a few bits with it that I like. The fact that the max positions is 4 and not 3 going into it, which has been a big blocker in the past. I think just to go back to something that I didn't really want to interrupt, but when you were talking about 𝘵esse and the fact that he's got some good Evo paths now, definitely including creative director, one of the things they're clearly doing, in my opinion, is a lot of these are max playstyle +1 and then boosting past the playstyle plus Evos you've got from the season pass. So you can't make a 2 playstyle plus player with these boosted stats. Like you have to be a bit more kind of careful with it, like lower down effectively. So it's worth keeping that in mind. Like I do think eventually you'll be able to get your Evo 𝘵esse a second playstyle plus, but it's something that I think is in the content team's mind not to mess with too much. But I think there's something interesting on FUT.gg, which is quite new, which is there's like an analysis section for evolutions, where there's like an average GG boost for each evolution. And obviously for like the ones that are giving big stat boosts and big overall boost, that's going to be quite big. But considering this is just a +1 overall, the average GG boost for creative director is 4.5 ratings. Like, that is massive. And I know it's a mix of things, right? It's giving good stats in good areas. It's only a +1 overall. It's giving roll pluses, but it's also those play styles are just brilliant. Like if
the weak foot,
and the weak foot too.
Yeah.
And if you have a player that you want to start an Evo path on, you could do a lot worse than this as one of your Evos. It might be worth something you keep till the end, obviously, because it's got those 8 play styles rather than the base 7 play styles. But I mean, it is really, really good. And I think it's been reflected in kind of how the community have reacted to it. There's only so much weight you can put in the upvotes and downvotes on Evos, but like it's 82% upvoted, which so many of the Evos we've had recently just haven't even come close to. So I quite like it. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, and actually, it's an interesting point you're making about playstyle pluses, and I think this is something that is kind of worth mentioning, and maybe I think we said we talk a bit more about evolution strategy on a future podcast, but it's probably worth warning people now that obviously there's a chance when they start releasing the 2 playstyle plus Evos that they will be capped to an overall below, like, you know, the 87 or 88 that we're currently pushing players up to, and I've been a bit hesitant in terms of evolving some of my players beyond that sort of 86. Or even, I guess probably maybe 87 would be safe, but I don't know, like the idea of evolving a player up to the 88 and then realizing that actually you can't get a second playstyle plus on there is something that, like, you know, is giving me a bit of caution with some of these Evos that give an overall boost. And I think it's probably worth mentioning that it, you know, may well be worth waiting, especially as, I mean, people, actually it might even be out by the time people listen to this, but like especially with the season pass coming the next day as of the time we're recording, and that'll be an interesting, I think that'll be Josh, quite an interesting tell in terms of how things look in terms of I guess how things look in terms of where they're expecting Evos to go over the course of that season.
Yeah, and how much we kind of are progressing along the power curve, you know, how much of a jump ahead did we get during Team of the Year versus what they'll row back to. And, you know, I think we should go in with lower expectations, if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a big tell. One thing I have found interesting on Evos, just before we potentially move on, is that with the live events, we've been getting lots of objective evolutions. So for the Flash Rush. There was Pristine Control. Get Low came from Live Event 5 in 6 that just got released. There's Exploded into Space. And they have really short times that you can actually apply them for. So Exploded into Space expires in 5 days. And it's not like a 5 days plus 7. It's you have to just put it on in 5 days. Same with Get Low. Get Low's 3 days. So I think there's another one as well. The Swift Footwork expires tomorrow. And so all of these Evos that you're used to kind of earning and then, right, let's see how they all go together. It makes me a little, this is ridiculous, I know, but it makes me a little bit excited for what Evos might be happening with Evos in maybe 4 or 5 days' time. If all of these are expiring, there must be a reason they're so short. I don't think it's just to bring it all into Team of the Year. I think it must be so they don't run into something else from an Evo perspective.
I mean,
just
Future Stars is coming, right? That'll be on Friday. We'll potentially have some sort of evolution path thing, because that feels like, I mean, they've done that previous cycles, right? So similar to the Team of the Year honorable mentions, Evo, something along those lines, which, maybe they're wary that people are going to be able to sort of add some very optimal play styles into the mix on their way to that potentially, or they're just going to drop a lot of Evos over Future Stars, which is also quite possible actually, considering the shift from Team of the Year focused pack stuff to more Evo or more kind of like, progression without, I was going to say progression without spend or pay to win, but obviously there's still spend there. So that's completely true. But anyway, we should move on to some more kind of gameplay focused topics, but we should definitely take a break because it's been a while. So we'll come back and talk about some pro tactics, which have caused some confusion right after this. Hello, and in this break, a quick reminder that the pod is made possible by supporters. The pod didn't used to be weekly. Yes, Foot Weekly wasn't actually weekly for a time. And then someone suggested setting up the Patreon. And since then, the pod has been weekly. And in fact, it's been twice weekly because there is that supporter episode every single week. So if you'd like to catch that episode and keep the podcast going, it's just £3 a month to do so. And you get loads in return. And there are perks higher than that, including access to the Discord too. So if you're interested and would like to support the podcast, then head over and search Support for Weekly. Go to Patreon and it's very easy to sign up. If you are a supporter keeping the podcast going, then a huge thank you for doing so. And if you do consider supporting, a huge thank you too. Right, let's jump back into the pod. Hello and welcome back after the break. Right, so FC Pro completed this week, and maybe to no huge surprise, Anders won FC Pro, I think, for back-to-back years, and he also got to choose a player to come out as an SBC, an icon, and he chose Del Piero, so I assume that'll be added at some point. His player, for those with maybe unsurprisingly not that long memories, was Darwin Núñez. Although the upgrades are looking kind of meh, because even the players with 2 playstyle pluses seem to have had their regular playstyle upgraded to a plus, so now only have like 2 or 3 regular playstyles in some cases. So not especially exciting from that perspective, but maybe more interesting from a kind of gameplay tactical perspective, because there was a lot of confusion, I would say, Venny, over what tactic Anders was actually playing, because I think official EA feed had it initially down as a 4-4-2, but of course everyone was like, he's not playing a 4-4-2 because, well, I say of course, like it just isn't really a tactic that pros play this cycle. And I thought it'd be interesting just maybe to just start and explain to listeners why, at least, at the pro level, it's not a tactic that you really see versus the other tactics we see more frequently.
Yeah, I think 4-4-2, it's high risk, high reward, right? Like, we have only one player who plays it, which is Nasada. And if you watch how he plays, he does a lot of manual inputs with player locks, triggers, calling them short, making them run in behind, using creative runs. So it's a formation what can be really good if you're really good with manual inputs and consistently putting the inputs in. and also being extremely fast and direct in attack. If you go slow whilst playing 4-4-2, in my opinion, it's not near enough impossible. It's pretty hard to build up in, because there's no middle ground linking up the midfield and the attack, or maybe even the defense and the midfield together. But if you watch how like 𝘵𝘂 plays, for example, he instantly goes forward, triggers both his centre mids, and then hits into the strikers and then plays. Like, there's a lot of fast pace into it. So that's why we don't really see it in pro play, because not everyone plays extremely fast. I think once you go into actual like pro play, it is a bit more controlled, taking your time, making sure you're making the most of actually the possession and not losing the ball in any silly decisions. As well as 4-4-2, it's pretty hard to defend in. It doesn't really make sense that it's hard to defend in when 4-4-1-1 is good in defending, I would say. But with having that one extra player with the cam dropping in to kind of cover off their midfield pass as centre mids, it's an absolute game changer with how actually it can work. But we know in real football, 4-4-2 is like one of the best pressing formations in the world, right? So that's where, again, 4-4-2 can be good, especially if you need to score goals and maybe you're 2-3 goals down. You're like, I need to change something. I need to start being more aggressive in the attack and defense. 4-4-2 is, to be honest with you, the number one choice to go to in them moments.
That's an interesting point. So yeah, I guess if people want a more pressing formation, and I guess it might work if you're playing like a 4-4-1-1, even a 4-5-1, maybe to switch to a 4-4-2, or at least you could bring someone on. I guess to play striker is probably the way to go. But yeah, so that's a good point. But essentially, like, people knew he wasn't playing a 4-4-2 because the way the team was setting up wasn't a 4-4-2 shape. So then I saw tactics being shared in the 4-4-1-1, which I'm sure he was playing, but you were pointing out that one of those tactics being shared wasn't actually the tactic he was playing either, because of some obvious things that, again, pros don't do because they're just not considered efficient at the top level. So I don't know if you want to highlight some of the things in that tactic. I think it was like, actually you explain.
So I think we can kind of talk about where the confusion comes from is when they submit their team, they don't put, one, the team, what they're actually going to use, and two, the formation they're going to use. The reason why they do this, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's that they don't want to show everyone, the opponents, what they're actually going to use, especially if there's a long gap, maybe since we've last seen them compete, and it's like, okay, like, he was playing 4-4-1-1 last time. Now he's playing like 4-5-1. Like then all that preparation they've done is out of the window. I'll be honest with you though, when it comes to like Anders and stuff like the top players, most of the time they stick to that formation. What they've been playing good, especially if they're in good moments, they'll stick to that. So people see Anders said like his team was in 4-4-2. Amount of people, what I've seen, reply to me on Twitter and saying, no, he's playing 4-4-2 and he's got false 9 on his strike. I'm like, no. Like, I can clearly see that's a cam, right? I know how like the game works. I know that's a cam. Then they drop the tactics codes, which they get given from the pro players, but the pro players can literally give them any code they want at that point, because they don't. It's not like they've gone straight after the game and be like, okay, what is that code? They actually ask them before the tournament starts, what is your code? So again, they can give them whatever code they want. So that was again why the confusion came with the 4-4-2. Then they dropped the 4-4-1-1 tactic, which, in fairness, it's close. It's not what I think he exactly used. In my opinion, he used exactly what he used in the Euros, which was only a month ago, and he played really good. The slight tweaks, what we're seeing is the difference is, one is the inside forward attack, which I think on the right mid.
So when you say tweaks, as in what was the tweak is what was being shared as his tactic in the 4-4-1-1 versus what he was probably actually playing in the 4-4-1-1.
Exactly.
Which, there was an in-game screenshot of his tactic from that event that you were talking about before.
Yeah.
And so that's what, so exactly. So do continue. So it's the difference between those two.
Yeah. So what we saw in the one what they posted on Twitter, they said he's using an inside forward attack on the right mid, but then the left mid's on inside forward balance. Attack, it's an okay role to have, especially if you're like needing goals and you maybe want that right mid to stay higher. But as an overall sort of shape to your team, again, pros don't take risk really when it comes to formation and tactics. They play a simple tactic which has simple patterns, what they can replicate on a consistent basis. I also know, because I know Anders' coaches, I've been told Anders likes symmetry within his game. So he likes if everything's on the same roles and the same movement on the left side and the right side, or if he's playing through the middle, it's always consistent. So for him to play with one on attack and one on balance on the left mid and the right mid, it doesn't make sense. And we've seen that in the Euros a month ago. His inside forwards on the right mid and left mid were both balanced. So we saw that. There's another tweak which we're seeing, which is the defensive approach being on high depth. He played balanced in Euros, and I still think he's on balance. The reason why I think that is through balls are so prompt at the pro play level. If you play high depth and you're playing these pros who are good at triggering runs, unless you're insane at marking, like tracking runs, like you're going to get punished a lot. And people be like, yeah, but Anders is like got the best player switchings in the world. His player switching is all about being aggressive in the one-on-one situations on the players. If he's then using high depth, he's then going to get punished in behind. So he's using actually balanced depth. So his team's dropping with how the opponent's attacking with him. Then he's using his aggression with his player switching and his timings to then make it feel like he's playing 100 depth, to be honest with you, because of the player switching and stuff like that. But yeah, he's playing, in my opinion, balanced, so he's not getting punished from the through balls.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so we will put the code for the tactic in the description of the podcast, like in amongst the timestamps for this bit. But it's worth just kind of running through what he was playing, and maybe we'll talk a bit about it. And the reason why we spoke about what we just spoke about was basically to say, like, you know, be wary of like tactics shared that pro tactics are not always necessarily what they're playing. And actually, we'll probably go on to talk about now why you need to be wary of playing pro tactics, even if they are the correct code. But yeah, we'll go through them. So we've got Donnarumma on the goalkeeper. I think it's just a goalkeeper role on balanced. And then we have Dalot as fullback on defend, at right back, Militao, defend, centre back. Murillo, defend, centre back. Carreras, fullback, defend, left back, and then the two centre mids, both on box to box ball winning. And then left mid, you've got inside forward, balanced. At right mid, exactly the same. And then the cam is on playmaker, balanced, and the striker is on advanced forward attack. And kind of notably, I guess, the left back isn't on any kind of role plus or plus plus. Neither is the cam. Bonmati is on just no role playmaker. And I'm not sure about Pina. Potentially might not be on a role either. And then Reinders is on. Yeah, she's not actually. And then Reinders is actually also not on a box to box. The rest are all on plus. It's not on a box to box plus or plus plus, and the rest are all on pluses, I think, pretty much, apart from a few pluses here or there. So yeah. Oh, and also the other thing is that the build-up style is short passing, which is quite significant, I think, because it's not really something you see so often. And defensive approach is just balanced. So yeah, and in terms of your kind of experience, Venny, of just quick kind of pro 4-4-1-1 tactics, is this kind of a more standard approach to the 4-4-1-1?
Yeah, I would say it's near enough identical to what most people play. There's some slight tweaks what we do see, which would be the build-up style actually being on balance instead of short passing with a lot of people. Some people use Shadow Striker on their cam, and sometimes like a combination with Shadow Striker on false 9 as their two strikers. But everything else is identical, especially with the bots to bots, but usually see them on balance. Not so many people do play ball winning. If you are struggling with build up and maybe play a little bit slower, we do see people play one bots to bots and one deep line playmaker on a build up or defend, kind of having that like nice balance between the two, being able to play fast but also having an anchor within your midfield.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, Josh, any kind of thoughts just seeing that kind of tactic we just shared?
So there's two things. The first thing is it's easy to brush over, but goalkeepers aren't unbalanced by default when you start a new tactic. And I think there is quite a sizable difference between having them on defend and having them on balanced in the way that they behave, the way they come for crosses, how far off the line they stand when you're kind of defending a through ball, their like tendency to rush out by themselves to win the ball. Like I do think there's a big difference, and it's just worth putting them on balance. So just kind of highlighting that. Probably worth talking about the fact that despite the patch we had making attacking fullbacks better, it did feel like no one was really using attacking fullbacks. Just still sitting with effectively 4 defenders. It did strike me. Attacking slow, being patient, taking no risks, effectively having 4 centre backs on the ball, and then there's these upstart people coming in with like a 4-4-2 press, going a bit more direct. Just reminded me of a game I watched recently. I think it's probably the big thing for me is the box-to-box ball winning in midfield. Ball winning is a brand new focus for this year, and is something that I'd started experimenting with in the last few weeks. And I think, personally, if you are someone, and I hate myself for saying this, but if you're someone who struggled with the kind of slight decrease in AI defending, having ball winning on your midfielders makes them like twice as active off the ball. They are far more aggressive. They feel like they run around an awful lot more. Their stamina drains a bit more quickly as well, I've found. But if you want as much AI help as possible in the midfield, ball winning's definitely the role I would look for. But for me, I don't think I would use this tactic as it currently is, because short passing is a brilliant build-up style if you are amazing at player locking, sending people on runs, having directed runs, doing all of that manual stuff to create the patterns rather than just have the patterns kind of make themselves obvious because you're used to playing this way. Short passing is very, very difficult. I tried it, in fact, because I wanted to try out 4-4-1-1, and I tried short passing, and it just is so difficult to get the runs you're expecting. Players just don't exploit the space in the same way that especially with box-to-box midfielders, the run you expect them to make kind of almost beyond that back line to get into the space. They aren't going to do that. And I don't think it's just because they're on ball winning as a focus. I think it's because you're on short passing and not on counter. Counter's a bit more like just get up the pitch and like fly forward and then rest once the ball's up there. So that would be, I think, if you do use these tactics, or you are someone who likes to use other people's tactics, the build-up style is going to depend mostly on how good you are at directing runs, how slow you are like progressing the ball up the pitch. If you're someone who likes to counter, this is not going to be like, I wouldn't be using short passing at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. This was an interesting tactic to see because I think I mentioned it quite a few times now, but I've been playing the 4-4-1-1, and there are like some notable differences. I think that short passing element is one of them, and I would agree that like having tried short passing, I just like feel like I need a bit more support, I guess, from the players in my team in terms of making the deeper runs, even though I do trigger runs and I do use player lock sometimes. But I think the other thing that I would tweak here, if you're kind of a mere mortal player, is having, and I think we talked about it before too, like having one winger on inside forward, one winger on winger, to create kind of a bit more difference, I guess, in terms of what your like wide players are doing, because I think inside forward is really quite predictable. And also if you've got 2 centre mids on box to box, which I do, I actually only have one on ball winning, one on regular box to box, because I find that like in terms of getting back, it's a little trickier to cover that space if both of your box to boxes are very aggressive and kind of pushing up to win the ball. And you can also actually switch one of them, I think, to deep lying playmaker, as we've talked about, and that will help you a bit in terms of that transition. But yeah, I just find like having one on winger does help quite a bit, especially as I have a shadow striker cam, because it just keeps that width and allows you to kind of, I guess, pin or separate the defense a little bit better. And that's something that pro players can obviously do manually and will be doing manually. But for us more kind of, players who are going to be doing less manual run making, I think having those players do it for you is a big positive. But also the other thing is actually defensively. I think that the wingers do a much better job defensively. They track back quicker. They're more involved in putting pressure. And if you have 2, you kind of notice this. And having like at least one that you can kind of leave a bit more and not have to move so manually is quite nice, because they will do a bit more in that sense. But you won't get as many of those kind of inside runs, which can be quite advantageous in some situations. And also having my fullbacks on versatile, which is just like gives them a little opportunity to get forward here or there rather than just completely letting them sit back. But it's still the fullback role. I'll pop the tactic that I'm playing in the description as well, so that people can see that. But yeah, is there anything you wanted to add, actually, Venny, from that perspective, for people, I guess, thinking about maybe trying this tactic?
Yeah, I was going to say that I'll talk about a couple points you guys mentioned. One, the winger role. I actually think having an inside forward and a winger can definitely be useful in a lot of different situations. One being if you're holding the lead and want a bit more control in the game, having a winger always really wide is really useful for when you build up, because okay, if I'm stuck, I just move it to my right back and my winger's basically touching the byline, and I can play into that and then create a one-on-one situation with their defender, their fullback, and then be able to play around that, and it helps really, really nice in that perspective. But also combining it with the box to box, as you mentioned, works really good. I actually tried double winger at one point with 2 box to boxes, and I noticed the box to box will fill in the space of what an inside forward would do once you get around the box. So if you have a box to box who's good in attack, and this is why when you're getting them cars, you're building them evos, or you're buying somebody off the market, you kind of do want to have like a shooting play style, good on the ball, because they are, in theory, another attacker once they get to the box, right? So if you combine that with a winger, there's some really nice combinations in that sense. Talking about what you mentioned, Josh, with the fullback roles actually working now. I've been coaching Auburn, and we actually played wing back in the first game in our group stage, and it was working great in practice. And then they go into the game, and the only way the opponent was able to get through was because our wing back was so high up and leaving ourselves in a disadvantage defensively. So we actually changed ours to like a fullback balance and a fullback versatile after that game, because we was just getting punished on that situation, unfortunately, because it is really nice in an attacking sense to do it. Why I think it was more prompt in pro play is because of the amount we see of team press. And when you use team press, the wingers go so high up. So it basically turns into like a 4-2-1-3 counter sort of shape. And having no fullback in that spot, you're instantly in a 3 versus 4 situation defensively. That obviously doesn't sound good. So there's a lot of space for that left winger to drive into. We spoke how good the incisive pass can be used. So yeah, if you're trying to go up to the next level, be wary of using wing back, but it can be a really nice role if you want maybe an extra number in attack, or again, if you're down a couple goals and you're like, I want to take a bit more risk, but without taking too much risk, putting an extra number on that fullback side and creating the overload on the right side can be really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say combining the, if you do want to have an attacking fullback, combining them with the inside forward, one of your wingers, if you do have one inside forward, that's the way to make that work, so that they make the outside run. And, usually they will be completely free to get the ball. And yeah, that does leave you a bit more vulnerable at the back. But, if you've got, as long as you've got 3 players back, you can tend to hold them off long enough. I think the big worry for me when you do go with an attacking wing back is actually, it's not necessarily being countered, because I've said a few times, I think one of my strong suits is my slowing down of an opposition's counter. It's actually, once you get kind of set, they just sit a little bit wider from the back 4. And so if there is an inside forward on the other side that makes that run, if you don't spot it early enough, it's such a gap that they play those balls through kind of consistently. So that's the one thing to look out for from a worry perspective. I think if you know you're slightly better than your opponent, I think you can use it, and you can really like force home the advantage. Or if you need a goal late on, but in a very tight game, it can be the thing that opens up a gap that makes the difference between the to the end score.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, we've talked a lot about inside forwards, which is good, because in terms of our playstyle power rankings by position, we are going to do, I guess, a right mid or left mid inside forward, which can basically also be applied to the right wing and left wing. And that's partly because we've also had the inside edge evolution, which I think is very relevant to this. So we'll take a break and we'll come back and rank playstyles for the inside forward positions right after this. Hello, welcome back after the break. Right, let's rank our playstyles for the inside forward positions. As I said, kind of encompasses left mid, right wing, left wing, but all inside forward. And I guess we already talked about it earlier. So before we get into playstyles, you mentioned Venny, being lengthy can be quite an advantage there. So we should probably just say that off the bat. And if there's anything else that comes up that's not playstyles, maybe feel free to drop it in, but mainly focus on the playstyles. In terms of our rankings, I guess it's changed a little bit. We were doing 2 playstyle pluses, 7 regular playstyles. They've now gone up to 8. So we'll just do a list, basically, 2 playstyle pluses, and then sort of go down our list in terms of ranking. So let's start with you, Josh. Which playstyles are you going to be starting with?
So this is going to be so. I have a feeling there's a meta, and then there's like what suits my playstyle.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because as I keep saying, I love passing in this game, like with Tiki Taka. That's why all of my pound for pound nominations tend to have Tiki Taka plus. And so if we're going to playstyle pluses, then my second playstyle plus would probably be Tiki Taka over an incisive or a technical or a first touch or a rapid. Like there's kind of a bunch of that I think you can go for with the second. But for me, I tend to need that like quick, precise pass from my winger backwards to a midfielder who's stood on the edge of the box, who also has tiki-taka to then play it first time back into the box if I'm needing to break someone down who's set. So that's more like a personal play style rather than what I think is the most meta. Finesse shot is probably what I'd go for as my first play style plus. And then, for me, it would be tiki-taka. But I think if you're a dribbler, then I could see you going for a technical or potentially first touch. I could see some people going for a pace play style. I think I would absolutely want base rapid. Would probably be one of my first play styles that I'd want that isn't plus. Then it's kind of like I'd like low driven. I'd like definitely incisive. Probably pinged, because the ball roll pinged pass from the wing across the box is still really powerful, as it has been in kind of times gone by. Depending on the foot of the player, I also think inventive could be really important. Being able to hit an outside of the foot through ball to kind of bend round to a forward would be something I'd definitely be thinking about. And then dribbling wise, I think Press Proven's massively underrated. I've liked technical, but I don't know how much I trust it as just a base playstyle over the playstyle plus. I'd probably go with Press Proven and Quick Step, and then First Touch. First Touch is an interesting one because I really like it. Like that's 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀 is brilliant. She's very, very good and has first touch and finesse plus. But I feel like that I use it more in that like take the touch, take the shot, which I don't necessarily do as much with my wingers. So yeah, I think I would probably I'd probably be finesse first. There is an outside shout, but I'm kind of going to let Venny say it because I feel like I can sit back and bask in the glory of something I've been harping on about for weeks now. But there's if you've got a player with a bit of height to them, you might want to think about how you could utilize that.
Interesting. Maybe I'll do mine, and then Venny can kind of see us home with a kind of more competitive focused selection. So I'll go. My first choice is going to be Rapid Plus. Wait, actually, is it? I don't know. I'm really torn, actually, to be honest, between Finesse Plus and Rapid Plus. I think they're both really effective, but I think that extra pace, I mean, it just seems to make quite a big difference. I guess it might depend if they're lengthy or not, actually, whether I'd go Rapid Plus first or not. Like as we were talking about earlier, I think that can compensate for not having a Rapid Plus, and obviously then go for the base Rapid. And then after that, I agree that Tiki Taka is very good. I'd probably put it on a par with Low Driven in terms of importance. And, I'm not saying it's going to be a plus, but I think, it's very useful as base play styles. And then I've gone incisive because I think slipping players in from those positions is quite important. And then I've gone technical. And actually, interestingly, I think technical plus would probably be a contender just because technical plus is such a bump above the regular technical. So I know it's like not as high in the list, maybe as you'd expect for one that I consider as a plus, but I think just because of that difference, I would consider it there. And then next I've gone quick step, which, yeah, I mean, just extra pace is always nice. And then actually for me, I'm going to go trickster, because I use the trickster fake shot quite a lot. I also use the kind of trickster rainbow quite a bit. I mean, it's kind of more fun, but it's also like fairly effective too. And then so I think we're then on to, how many have we done? We've done, let's just count up, 6. And so I've got a 7th and 8th. I definitely go first touch. And then for the last one, I'm kind of, and I'd maybe consider these to replace first touch too, kind of like what Josh was saying, but I've got press proven, pinged, and game changer. And you could also probably add inventive in there as well. So those ones, I kind of prefer first touch or pinged, I'd say, but those are all kind of ones you may want to consider as the final kind of 2 play styles, I suppose, in this position. And I think game changer is quite nice if you've got, say, a right footer on the right. Inventive, kind of nice if you've got a left footer on the right, so that you can bend it around and things like that. So there are some specifics, I guess, depending on the rest of the player's build. But yeah, I do think those are kind of the suite of playstyles that I'd like if I could get them. And hey, with Evos, often you can, so which is quite nice. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to you, and we'll hear what you do here.
Okay, so number 1, it's simple. It's finesse shot. Always the banker. I think when it comes to any attacking position, even centre mids, having finesse shot plus is a game changer, right? We know how good the shot is, the animation, but also how fast the shot comes off the player, which is super useful. The second play style, I wrote rapid originally, and I was like, is there much difference between rapid plus and rapid base? And I'm kind of like, I'm in an hour and like, is it actually the best for seconds? And I've actually been telling people not to put technical on, like, somebody asked about Liao and putting technical plus on him. I was like, I don't feel like I use R1 that much for my wingers. I feel like they're just running a lot.
Yeah,
so
true. Maybe it's more of a cam striker thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it is in my list, but as a playstyle plus, I'm still going to say rapid, but I think it's really up in the air what you actually want to go for. If you want maybe that extra pace, tiki-taka's great. And again, if you use R1 dribbling a lot, then of course, then that's a no-brainer. But my order is finesse shot first, rapid second for the playstyle pluses. Then I'm going to go tiki-taka, because again, like Josh said, it's so useful to have on the wings, being able to find that inside pass, and actually combining it with ping pass. So Josh mentioned that he likes to find that inside pass a lot from the wingers. Use a driven pass for them first time passes is absolutely game changing. We know with ping pass, it opens up a lot better timings for the defense basically not to get back. So ping pass for me is one of the priority ones to have. And then I put technical, then first touch, which is one what's kind of gone onto my radar last 3-4 weeks. I think it's actually a very good play style because one, the first touch is obviously better, but 2, how fast the player activates into the next movement is really nice to have. Then low driven, then quick step, then inventive, I think is super underrated again. I actually think inventive helps for first time through balls, which sounds crazy, but it says in the description, helps with harder passes. And the combination with tiki-taka, incisive, and inventive, I don't know if you guys have him, but the 𝘱𝗵𝗪𝘀 card, I think I put him in Frostlight Finish, and he's got the 3. His passing seems absolutely insane, especially the first time ones. They just connect so much better. Then there's Game Changer. So the reason why I was umming and ahhing about what the second playstyle is as a playstyle plus is, like what Josh mentioned, is the precision header playstyle plus. We've been testing it a lot in the VBL mode with a guy called 𝘵𝗃𝗄𝘳. He's a 5/5 winter wildcard card. His headers are unbelievable. Like the difference between silver playstyle and gold and the gold is massive. The corners, you can just do like the old school corners where you just whip it in straight into him, heads it like he's playing like last year's game. Honestly, it's like FC 25 with him when it comes to heading the ball. It's one I'm like, do you need it? probably not. Most people are not going to use it, but if you want an extra tool into your attack and maybe throw off the opponents on how they need to defend against you, having that precision header is a great option to have when you're going down the wings. And like I mentioned already, we're seeing a lot more people use team press defensively, right? Once they're defending around the edge of the box. Having that option when you're on the wing to put the ball just as a cross, where you don't have to worry about his team running at you, is a game changer. Then they've also got to defend you different because now you're crossing the ball, not just passing and finding your way in. So yeah, Josh mentioned, I think maybe a little while ago about it. I haven't really tested it. And then last week we put 𝗵𝗽𝗀𝘀𝘀 in the VBL, playing him left mid, no rolls. He's even got 𝘬𝘮𝘀𝘀𝘀, and he is a game changer to have.
So yeah, maybe there is almost like a slightly different build we could describe for the inside forward, which is maybe more of like a back post presence, basically, as well. But yeah, that is interesting. But are you kind of saying actually all you need is precision header? But presumably the height is also important.
Yeah, I think it's. I haven't tried it with like 𝘵𝘵𝘬𝘦𝘦, for example, like who's got an inform, like I think with precision header. I haven't tried it with him, but I think the combination with the height. I think the thing is, like, they need to have everything else. You know, it can't just be having precision header, because then you're only limiting yourself to be able to do one thing with one player in your attack. Where this 𝗵𝗽𝗀𝘀𝘀𝘀, well, VBL mode, we're kind of restricted to what we can do. This is why I'm like, it's something I think long term, when we get better cards with better stats, with better play styles, with the weak foot and the skill moves combinations, like, it's going to be more prompt. And I think when people start using it and see people using it well, they're going to be like, wow, like, this game is more broken than we actually thought.
You know, I'm my future career in coaching is clearly on the horizon. But one of the things I would say with the heading, and specifically with 𝗵𝗽𝗀𝘀𝘀𝘀, so Venny actually messaged us in the chat and said, hey, like, we're using precision header plus, and it's like wild. So I went to have a look at 𝗵𝗽𝗀𝘀𝘀𝘀, and one of the things he has is Aerial Fortress. Now, I went to our contacts at EA, because when you actually read the description for Aerial Fortress, firstly, it's in the defensive category of playstyles, and it says performs higher jumps and has physical defensive presence before and during aerial duels. But physical defensive presence, not just physical presence. The first part, though, is performs higher jumps, and I'd kind of started the game under the impression that Aerial Fortress was a mixed playstyle, where it was essentially any time you went up for a header, it would impact. Then I kind of moved towards maybe it's just defensive, because it kept being put on defensive players. But I've had it confirmed, and Venny says this is how it's working in game as well, is that it's essentially just any aerial duel, anything you're jumping for, it's effective. And it is worth looking at how few players have both precision header and Aerial Fortress in the attacking sense. In fact, there's only 4 players, there's 3 male players and then there's 4 female players. 3 of them are actually just normal rare golds in 𝘵𝑎𝑐𝗰𝗆𝑚, 𝘬𝘯𝘰𝗀𝘀, and 𝘂𝑝, which I seem to remember on about the 2nd or 3rd gameplay pod being like, I don't understand. I've just played a game where 𝘂𝑝 has scored about 100 headers against me. I don't know what happened. And maybe it was this. But the 𝘭𝑪𝑖𝗀𝑚 Player of the Month 𝗵𝑐𝗀𝑐 has Precision Header Plus and Aerial Fortress. So if it's something that, like, you're someone who likes to cross, who would like to try it out, he's not the best player. He's not a brilliant player, but he's definitely someone who could do that job for a 17k SBC that is going to give you 2 packs back. It's an 83 and 84 rate squad. I think we've all got those right now. He's 6'2", he's lengthy. He's got both those, and he's also got Enforcer as well, which, again, it's that thing of, like, playstyle chaining. Sure, it probably doesn't do anything. Like, it performs shoulder challenges and shields with increased effectiveness, but how much of jumping for a header, especially if you consider your whole, like, the way that I would do a header is to hold both the triggers. Well, that includes L2, which is the shield button, and Enforcer is a shielding thing. I'm just like, all of those kind of mixes together. And I think that's why Venny's saying right now, I don't know that necessarily this is overpowered, because I don't think there's a player with the mix of those play styles and stats that would necessarily become broken. But as we start seeing two playstyle pluses more and more often, there is definitely a chance that someone that's tall, someone that's quick, and that has really good playstyles, and then has aerial fortress and precision header, we could see a bit of a shift in terms of a meta that is more easy to replicate than a kind of very fast tiki-taka moving the ball around.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, who said there wasn't value around at Team of the Year, I guess, with that SBC. It's a good way to end the podcast. Finally, some positives about Team of the Year. So yeah, I think that does wrap us up for this gameplay episode. Lots of insightful content, and looking forward to chatting more as we move away from Team of the Year, and maybe people get a few more playstyle pluses on their players, because I feel like we're doing these lists with not too many around. But yeah, we will come back next week. We'll do another position, or role, I guess. So if anyone has suggestions for our playstyle power rankings, and send those in, and that'll be a supporter episode, of course. If you'd like to become a supporter, so you can get all those supporter episodes, one every week, then you can do so over on the Patreon. Just search support for weekly, or follow the link in the description. It is only a couple of quid a month to support, and you get loads of content in return. And we should say, if you're catching this Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, you can subscribe, so you can get the episodes into wherever they come, I guess, depending on your platform. And if you are catching us on YouTube or Spotify, drop a comment. We do look at them all. We include them in the podcast. You can suggest content for an episode in those comments. And then, yeah, all that's left to be said is thank you very much to Venny. Good to have you on, as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So as you mentioned, like, it's becoming a bit of a regular. So glad that you guys are enjoying my insight as well.
Yeah, no, we've had great feedback. And actually, if anyone giving great feedback about Venny would like to get a coaching session with him, then what is it, He's coach_Venny on pretty much all platforms, basically. Yeah, exactly. So you can find him there. And then to Josh as well. Yeah, nice to have you on. Glad you're surviving Team of the Year, just about.
Yeah, just about. Hey, we'll see how big the smile is come next Monday, and whether these final 48 hours deliver.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that I haven't packed Team of the Year. I have not packed an honourable mention yet. So maybe that'll happen for me before the end of the campaign. Right. Thank you very much to all you supporters supporting the podcast, keeping it going. It is greatly appreciated. And a big thank you to those icon patrons: Dave B, Darren W, Hugh J, Rob W, Josh R, Ralph, Brian, Michael B, Adam R, Make B, Michael H, Rob S, Michael K, Neil P, Jake S, Tom B, Alex M, Damon H, L, James B, Sam K, The Shirt Locker, Lee A, Chris G, Mark M, Dom P, Rob P, Roger D, Waterman, Also Ran, and Juicy. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add, though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life, really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.